Welcome to Pop Culture Shark, a live stream about pop culture. I'm Final Monkey,
And I'm Caleb.
and today we are going to be talking about the Avengers. Neither of us are big Avengers fans, but we're going to talk about what it would take for us to read the Avengers comic books. We're not talking about the movies. The movies are different because you got star power behind that. It makes you like the characters, but the actual comic books, they're not our favorite comics. So we'll be talking about that today. But first off, how are you doing today, Caleb?
I'm doing well. It's been kind of a crazy fun weekend here in our hometown. Was the arcade expo where everyone from the region brings their arcade machines and gets them all set up. I think it's like $35 for the day. You get your little wristband and everything's set on free play. It's a
Nice.
lot of fun.
Nice. We've got some places here called Free Play where you pay like $10 and you get in. There's just all these arcade machines and pinball machines you can play and stuff. It's a lot of
Yeah.
fun.
My uncle Craig actually won Best in Show for pinball machines because he made a homebrew Steamboat Willie pinball machine.
That's
Uh,
insane.
yeah, and he's always been concerned about a cease and desist because it's in the pinball community. It's actually really up and coming, and people are like traveling to see the Steamboat Willie homebrew game, and so they have to be very careful not to get a cease and desist on it.
Yeah, yeah. Mickey Mouse is one of those interesting copyright things, but that's a whole nother
That
podcast about how
that
old his character is and should he still be copyright protected? I don't know. It's
Oh man. I had to explain to someone copyright earlier today because they're like, why was my video taken down? And I was like, it's because of your music. Why is that? I'm like, I really don't
own it.
know. Yeah, like
Did you make the music? No.
right.
Well, it's not
Yeah.
yours.
Yeah.
So, but again, that's a whole other live stream of copyright rules and YouTube and
Copyright versus copy wrong.
yeah. Uh, I'm doing okay. I started collecting the gargoyles figures, and I have Goliath. Uh, Thalog, who if you don't know who Thalog is, he's the clone of Goliath. So it's kind of like a repaint. They changed his face sculpt and stuff. He's out there somewhere. I've been unable to find him at all. Like when I go to Target, I could see that they have the label on the shelf where he should be, but they never have him. So my whole thing as well, as long as they spread out the release of these gargoyles, I should be fine. And they're doing what they're calling the Target Holothon, where they're going to release a whole new bunch of figures. It starts, I think, this Friday.
Mm-hmm.
They've announced Demona and Bronx are going to be available. So now that's 3 gargoyles I have to start looking for. So I'm not too happy about that. I mean, I'm happy that they're out, but I'm not happy that they're so hard to find. And we only have one target in Mesquite. So everybody hits that target. Now I can go driving an extra 10, 20 miles and find a bunch more targets, but traffic's crazy. Gas prices are crazy. I don't want to.
Oh, absolutely.
So
are they Target exclusive?
Right now, I think Demona and Bronx will be for the next couple of months. They tend to start at Target, and then you'll start to see them pop up at, like I'll see Goliath at Walmart or Best Buy. So I'm sure they won't be that scarce once they, a couple months from now. But right now, they are just impossible to find. And Thalog, I'm a little bit more iffy on because he's more of just a repaint figure. So I don't know, if he's going to be harder to find.
Mm-hmm.
I won't be heartbroken if I don't have Thalog at the end of the day. He's just kind of one of those fun extra characters. But he's really cool. He comes with the money he stole from Xanatos, like the flare gun he used to start. It's like everything from the episode he comes with.
Gotcha.
It's really cool. So he has if you get a chance to look at the picture, he's got like a flare gun, and then it's got the missile shooting out of the flare gun. Like it's like a 6-inch piece coming out of the flare gun, like the smoke and the flames and stuff. So you like have it firing at Goliath and stuff. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, that is. Let me get up on my soapbox real quick, because ever since me and my brother moved out, I've been out of the collecting game because money is a thing.
Right.
But when I was in the collecting game, store exclusives suck. I can't stand them. Whenever I was really big into Star Wars The Black Series, they had Clone Wars based figures where it was like those realistic kind of looking figures, but they were based on the Clone Wars. Those were Target exclusive. I never found any of them. There were 4 of them. I believe it was Obi-Wan, Anakin, I think it was Rex, and then a clone pilot. No, it was 5s and a clone pilot. And I never found any of them. And I wanted that Anakin so bad because as a kid, I had this. I had like the original 3 3/4 inch Anakin because we were lucky enough to go to the Clone Wars Midnight Madness, which is a piece of history for all of you who are familiar. But yeah, the store exclusives are the worst, and then website exclusives aren't that far behind.
Yeah, especially when the websites crash and then when they reload, they're all gone.
Right.
I also collect Transformers, and I remember when Transformers the animated series was a big deal. There were 2 figures that were Target exclusive. I never could find them, and then one day they're like, "Hey, those figures are on clearance at Target." I'm like, "What are you talking about? I haven't seen them." And I went up there; they had both of them. I only had enough money for one, so I had to choose, and then I never saw it again. It was gone. And it was just like, why are you making, people, I guess the toy business is tough because you have some figures that are just going to, the peg warmers, the ones that are just going to sit there. And then you have ones, and then you have others that are not. And so you got to make a guessing game of, well, which one do I make more of? Which one do I make less of? And if I make less of this one, people are going to call me names on the internet and that I hate this group or that group or whatever. And it's tough. Because at the end of the day, they're trying to make money. So they're trying to figure out. It's like right now, I'd really like a Rhinox Transformer figure. I've seen him a couple of times. Can't find him now, but there's like 25 movie Cyclonus figures on the shelf. It's like, well, or whatever. So it's tricky. I get it, but we could talk toys some other time.
Yeah.
Because to me, like if I was running Marvel Legends, you should always be able to find a Spider-Man on the shelf. Like,
yeah,
I don't know why
definitely.
they make it once and then you don't see them again for 10 years. It's like, no, I don't care. You should always have a Spider-Man on the shelf. Always. It's stupid not to.
I have there was a movie that just came out and I didn't see any No Way Home figures on the pegs.
I've seen a couple, but at the same time, I mean, it's like Ninja Turtles. There should always be the classic 4 turtles should be available always. Because if a kid starts watching it, who are they going to want? The 4 turtles.
Right.
It's fine to have Eternals figures out there when the movie comes out, but you should always have a Spider-Man and a Wolverine, Captain America, Iron Man sitting there. It doesn't make sense not to. But that's just me. Or you should, or at the very least, say, hey, here's the website. If you want these figures, go special order them directly from us. We will always have these figures available.
Right, yeah.
It doesn't make sense not to. But that's anyhow. So let's get into some news. We had a pretty eventful week. First off, we had a major trailer drop finally, teaser trailer for the ObiWan series on Disney Plus.
I'm so excited.
Uh, yeah.
I'm a little hesitant because uh the uber Star Wars fan in me is like, well, he was supposed to be on Tatooine this whole time, but we were on Tatooine the whole time with Boba Fett, and that was kind of an issue. But if they're not on Tatooine this whole time, it's cool. But then like there's something wrong, and so I'm conflicted, but I'm still excited.
Well, I have no idea what the plot is. Just going by the teaser trailer, it seems like the Inquisitors are getting way too close to Luke. You know, it looks like someone's either being held in the Force by the Force, or they've been strung up with a noose. I don't know what's happening. You see the feet dangling, so maybe Obi-Wan's like, okay, I gotta lead them off planet. Hey, I'm over here on Coruscant or whatever this planet I'm on. Come find me to get them off of Tatooine. He's just got to take them, you know, on a goose chase or whatever, then take them all out. That would be my guess. I don't know. I don't know what the series is going to be. You know, just like the Inquisitors are hunting Obi-Wan. So
yeah,
looks cool. Excited. I know people like to crap on Hayden Christensen. I'm excited he's back.
Oh, I'm so excited.
You know, it's nobody that they could have cast could live up to anybody's standards, and a lot of that was the directing, you know. And I think they gave Jake Lloyd a really rough time when he was in episode 1, and you know, it just people can be ugly and cruel, and it just sucks.
Yeah,
you know. So,
but I think we're getting back to, not back to, but we're getting to the point where like, once you're so far removed from something, for some reason nostalgia takes over and people all of a sudden love this character. Like, I have no idea where all this Andrew Garfield love is coming from. I personally love Andrew Garfield as Spider-Man. I loved those movies. But I remember everyone just absolutely, you know, hating him as Spider-Man. And now with No Way Home, everyone is just so excited. Everyone loves him. And I think the same thing's probably going to happen for Hayden Christensen.
Well, I think with Andrew Garfield, I don't think the problem with those old Spider-Man movies was Andrew Garfield. I think it was the writing and the you know, directing and whatever. And I think he really, when he came back to No Way Home, he really sold it. He acted his butt off, and you know, so I think people are like, okay, we're willing to give you a chance again because you know you really love this, and you know you're really committed. With the prequel trilogy, I think people were like, the sequel trilogy is not what we wanted, and it's kind of Disney fan fiction. And if you want the real George Lucas story, you got to go to the first 6 movies. So now they're seeing the prequels in a higher regard, and I think that's more to do with, you know, that's real Star Wars. This is kind of fake Star Wars type thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. That's just me. We also got a follow-up Moon Knight trailer. I don't know if you saw that one.
I did not. I haven't seen any of the Moon Knight trailers actually, and it's not that I'm not excited for Moon Knight. Moon Knight's actually one of my favorites. I just haven't kept up with. I don't know. I don't tend to watch the Disney Plus Marvel shows like immediately.
Yeah.
Like I still haven't finished Hawkeye actually.
I never started Hawkeye. I get to a point with Marvel and Star Wars both that when I was a kid, that stuff was scarce. So if they made it, you went and watch it. And now we have so much of it, I can go, okay, I really don't have to watch this. I can miss this. I'm fine, you know. And that's where we're at. When we have, you know, 5 TV shows a year and 3 movies, it's kind of like, okay, you know what? This one doesn't look that great. I'm gonna skip it.
I think we're not gonna know for sure until Multiverse of Madness comes out. When Multiverse of Madness comes out, that is when we will know if the shows actually matter.
Yeah. Yeah, because there's kind of this, it's kind of all gray areas. I think there's some legal issues of like, well, Daredevil's back, but is it the same Daredevil? Well, we can't really officially say one way or the other. Just whatever you want it to be. It's kind of like, okay. you know. What else in news? DC moved a bunch of their movies release dates around. I don't know what's going on over there.
No, I really couldn't even tell because I mean Batman is doing extremely well, and so I don't know why they would push everything.
Well, the thing about that is think about what you said. The Batman's doing very well. All these other movies are set in a different universe.
Oh yeah, yep.
So now they're kind of like, well, we've already finished these other movies. What do we do with them? Because
Right.
if we just want to stay in this the Batman universe, do we really want to be promoting the Snyderverse more? It's just going to lead to more confusion.
Mm-hmm.
Or you're gonna rally the Snyder fans more and more, saying, no, we want more of this, and the studio wants more of the Batman. So I get it, and they're going through a buyout right now, so I think they're kind of waiting to see what the higher ups are doing. So
who is it that's buying them out? I can't remember.
Discovery Channel.
Really?
Yeah. So they are AT&T is selling the Warner Brothers portion, if I recall correctly, to them.
Okay.
Or controlling interest. So they will control that, and they'll control like CNN and all that. There's rumors they're going to sell off CNN to their own little company because they don't want it.
Right.
So, and there's just a lot of chaos behind the scenes right now. I think that's a lot of why DC Comics are just kind of a mess right now. Because they don't know who's going to have a job in 6 months or not.
Yeah.
So they're just kind of like, we're going to a crisis, and Justice League is going to be dead, and whatever. And it's like, okay. And it's like Justice League is going to be dead, but Batman and Superman are still alive in their own comics. Don't worry about it. And it's like, wait, are they dead or are they not dead? So it's chaos over there. I hear it's also chaos at Paramount. Like nobody knows what's going on at Paramount right now. So just a lot of movie studios that are very in debt and don't know what they're doing right now. they're all trying to do streaming services and they're not doing that great. And now they're kind of like, okay, now what do we do? And they don't know. And or they'll put all their eggs in one basket like Star Trek, and it's just not working. And then they're just like, okay, what do we do? So it's crazy. So but that's pretty much it for news. So let's start talking Avengers. So our challenge was, as we said, we're not talking about the movies, we're talking about the comic books. We both are not big Avengers comic book readers. And a lot of that is maybe we just haven't read the right story yet. I know we've said that in the past.
Yeah, I'm always like, if you don't like a certain character, you probably just haven't read the right story. When it comes to Avengers, a lot of times, whenever there's a team up, sometimes it's just characters I don't care about. The more interesting Avengers story was like whenever Bendis took over and he had like Jessica Jones and Luke Cage as a part of the Avengers. That was pretty cool. But for the most part, yeah, like I don't know if it's Avengers, then I'd rather read Justice League, or if I want to read Marvel, I'd rather read X-Men or
right. And you got to think of when I got into comic books, the big things at the time were Spider-Man, X-Men, Punisher, Cable, Ghost Rider, all these, Wolverine. It wasn't Avengers. Avengers was the title you avoided unless you were, just an old-time reader. And if you tried to read it, the teams were terrible. It was like, Crystal and Cersei and, Hercules, who I actually like Hercules quite a bit, but it was like, maybe not the best written Hercules at the time. And Black Knight, you're just kind of like, okay, this is not exciting. So yeah, and we grew up watching X-Men and Spider-Man cartoons. There really wasn't a great Avengers cartoon until much later.
No, that Earth's Mightiest Heroes was like, okay, cool. This is what I like. And even then, it was really just that first season.
Yeah, I really like Earth's Mightiest Heroes. It's a good, I'll say this, if you don't have time to read comic books and you want to learn about comics, X-Men the animated series is a great series to watch just to learn about X-Men, and then Avengers: Earth's Mightiest Heroes is a good one to watch just to learn about the Avengers.
Yeah, and then on DC's side, you got Justice League Unlimited and Young Justice.
And then Batman the animated series, of course.
And
Superman.
Course.
Yeah. When I think of Justice League or Justice League Unlimited, I'm lumping in Batman and Batman Beyond Superman. It's like one big series to me in my head.
It really is.
Yeah, the storylines are all connected, and which, when I think of the perfect, and we're getting way off topic, but when I think of perfect DC universe, it is that Bruce Timm universe.
Oh yeah.
I mean, that is the gold standard for what DC should look like.
They made up characters and were just as interesting, if not more interesting, than the because like you got Harley that they made up. Batman Beyond was completely made up. Some of Static's Rogues Gallery in Static Shock was made up, but still super interesting.
Yeah, Static is great. That's another one. I always forget about Static, but Static is a great cartoon. All right, so getting back to the Avengers, our rules were we can only pick 7 people to be on the team. It can be anybody. They don't have to be former Avengers. And then what's the scenario or what's the plot? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually let you go first. So last week we had some issues with the images, just learning how StreamYards works. I think I have a much better grasp on it this week, but it's just going to take me a minute to pull up the images. So
sure.
Who is your first character that you want to talk about?
All right. So the title for my Avengers comic book that I would read is called The Spectacular Avengers.
Okay.
And so the leader and the first character that came to mind was Spider-Man.
Okay, so give me 1 second. This was working perfectly right before, so
You're good.
Awesome. Okay. So tell me about Spider-Man while I'm looking for it. Why would you want Spider-Man on your team?
So Spider-Man is definitely just that everyday hero, the most relatable hero, and it sort of plays into my scenario. Should I save the scenario for?
No, why don't you go ahead and talk about your scenario right now?
Sure. So my scenario is the actual Avengers team is actually off doing some sort of cosmic mission that like it could be an Infinity War, it could be Annihilation, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. All that matters is your big cosmic players are off world. And so in New York City, Kingpin is starting some trouble, and so Spider-Man takes it upon himself to put together his own team to kind of protect New York while the Avengers are gone. And so Spider-Man specifically, because I think it'd be really cool to see him struggle as a leader, honestly, because he's definitely used to either being a side character in Avengers or being the main character of a solo. I don't think he's ever really led a team before. And so I think it'd be really cool to kind of see him struggle, trying to figure out how to lead a team.
Yeah, and I don't think he would make a great leader.
Right.
So I think that would be fun. Okay, mm-hmm. So Spider-Man's your first character. So yeah. Who's next up on your list?
My second character is Hawkeye.
Okay. So this is, you got to be specific because there are 2 Hawkeyes at the moment.
Right. It is. That's what you meant when you asked me that. I misunderstood. Clint Barton. Clint Barton. I picked Clint because I think it'd be really cool because Spider-Man needs a sort of mentor figure to kind of teach him how to lead a team. And at one point Hawkeye led the West Coast Avengers,
and the Thunderbolts.
and the Thunderbolts.
Yeah.
Plus, I also think that it'd be funny because let's be honest, Clint's kind of a jerk.
Yeah.
And so I think like there would definitely be times where he would like heckle Peter,
Right.
like during fights, or like I think he could be a good mentor for Peter, but I also think he could be a huge jerk.
Right. And Hawkeye's the type of character where if Spider-Man makes the wrong call, he's going to call him on it.
Yes.
He's gonna say, no, we should be doing it this way, and that could lead to some fun conflict where they're, the team's squabbling while, the disease getting destroyed or whatever. So yeah. Right. Okay, cool. So who is your next one?
My next one is Speed. Okay. Wanda's son.
So for those who aren't familiar, he was one of the kids featured on WandaVision recently.
Yep. Yes, he is sort of he gets his powers from Uncle Pietro. But no, the majority of this team is actually going to be younger characters, because Spider-Man could really only recruit the kids because, like I said, everyone else is occupied at the moment, and really only the kids would listen to Spider-Man. And so specifically Speed, I think would be fun with Hawkeye on the team to sort of have kind of like that Uncle Hawkeye thing. Like I think that Speed would definitely be like an annoyance to Hawkeye, but at the same time, you mess with Speed and Hawkeye is gonna take care of you. And so yeah, I think Speed would be really cool to have on this team.
Cool. Yeah, I like Speed. My only real exposure to him was the original Young Avengers series. I haven't really read much past that. So, who's next on your list?
So with Speed, you also have to have Wiccan.
Okay.
Which is his brother. I believe Speed's the older brother.
I couldn't tell you.
No, I think the joke is Speed's the older brother because he came out faster. But yeah, same reason. I just think that they'd be like they're sort of like the Wonder Twins on this team, I guess. Like you can't have one without the other, and same reasons. I feel like when it comes to Hawkeye, you mess with Wiccan, then Hawkeye is just going to be completely Uncle Hawkeye protective. And I see Wiccan as kind of the more grounded one. Like Speed is definitely going to be your fast talker, your Michelangelo, your Beast Boy, your comic relief, while Wiccan is the one that kind of holds them back or keeps them grounded.
Cool. Okay, so who is next on your list?
Next up is Miles Morales.
Never heard of him. No. So Miles has gotten super popular as of late due to the Spider-Verse movie, but I also feel like Marvel doesn't quite know what to do with it.
Yes, and that's kind of the joke that I have going on, because Peter Parker is Spider-Man, and Miles Morales is also Spider-Man. Yeah. And so I think there's a lot of comedy to be had with that, because I would imagine for like the first couple issues, they just start to get confused, like Spider-Man. Oh no, Spider-Man, and
Yeah.
eventually, eventually, Miles would come down on the fact that okay, maybe for right now, I just need a new name, and so the running gag throughout the rest of the series is that he keeps coming up with new names, and they're all garbage. Like they're the worst names ever.
Yeah, that would be fun. Yeah, I find Marvel keeps doing this lately, where there's 2 Wolverines, there's 2 Miss Marvels, or 2 Spider-Man. It's just like, no, they need to have their own names.
Yeah. Well, and for the most part, like these characters do have their own names, and they either A, don't stick, or B, they're pretty bad names. I believe
Right.
at one point, Miles was Kid Arachnid.
Yeah, I think of the cartoons, he's Kid Arachnid. Yeah.
Which isn't horrible, but
Sounds like a wrestling name or something.
yeah. Well, it sounds like the human spider. Like,
Yeah, and
it's something Bruce Campbell would make fun of.
yeah, and there was talks, and there was a rumor going around for a while. Then I don't know if it was just a rumor, if they had plans. They were going to call him the Spy Door, like Spy Dash Dur or something, but it didn't stick. And so yeah, he's had a lot of. It's difficult. I get it. 'Cause a lot of the good names are taken. You can't just call him the Spider because that's another character, and so I don't know, Wolf Spider, Hunter Spider. I don't know. They could call something, but I don't know.
Like I kind of imagine that like one of the first bad names they've come up with is like Speed would be like, well, why don't you just call yourself Black Spider-Man? And they'd be like, whoa.
Yeah.
No, yeah, your costume.
Right.
Just something like that.
Right. I could totally see that. Yeah. Okay. So who is next on your list? And this is a character I think I've heard of, but I don't really know that much about.
Yes. My next character is Kid Kaiju. Kid Kaiju is insane. He is awesome. What he does is he's got this book and he can summon monsters. I believe he's actually an Inhuman. He's one of the few Inhumans that I actually like.
Mm-hmm.
And he and Peter actually have a history, and that was kind of my idea. Is for most of these characters, I want them to have a history of some sorts. In fact, it was Peter that gave Kid Kaiju his name, and so for me, like I feel like you always kind of need like your bruiser on the team, whether it's your Thing or your Incredible Hulk. And so Kid Kaiju for me kind of fills that role. I in terms of characters, he would probably be the least developed of the character. It's definitely just for the artist to be able to play with some of these monsters and have cool action scenes.
And this is the kind of Marvel character I like and get behind, because he's not really connected to anybody. It's not like a Spider-Man derivative or an Avengers derivative. This is something new, a new original type of character. And so those are characters I think you should support any chance you get.
Oh yeah.
And it's cool. Are these all new monsters that he's creating? Like that green one looks a little bit like the original Baymax drawing a little bit. But it's not quite.
Yes, they are new monsters. I believe he summons them from like a different dimension.
Okay. So he's not actually creating them. He's pulling them out of a different dimension.
Yeah, I believe so.
All right, that's cool. I know in the old Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle comics, there was a character like this who had a magic pencil, and it was basically, his name was Kirby. It was basically Jack Kirby. It was like April O'Neil's neighbor, and Donatello and Jack Kirby had a big adventure, and they were creating all these things, and it's a cool comic book.
Yeah.
So, all right, cool. So Kid Kaiju, and then last on your list, let me remove that picture.
Uh,
is
my last pick is, of course, Wolverine,
right.
but it's not the Wolverine y'all are thinking of. It's Laura Kinney Wolverine. Um, I needed someone on this team who would definitely, for all my Dungeons and Dragons players out there, there is the idea of that guy. Now, that guy on your team or in your party is the one who is not the team player and will just start a fight whenever because they feel like it. And I feel like Laura Kinney could really be that. I don't believe she's as unhinged as Logan is, but I think it'd be really fun to get someone who's just as powerful as Wolverine and have Spider-Man kind of have to reel her in. And this is where a lot of the comedy. I say comedy a lot. I don't mean for this to be a comedic book, but I think um, in team books, your interactions between characters have to be somewhat entertaining from a comedic standpoint, and so that's
Right.
kind of where I'm thinking. Uh,
Well,
and
these are
so
the misfits that don't belong together, so they're not going to
exactly,
get along. They're going to make mistakes. Yeah, so it will be comedic by nature.
yeah.
So
Um, and so as Spider-Man's trying to reel in Laura, I think that's where Hawkeye, would start heckling him a little bit. I would imagine that Miles is just like super just scared of her and like doesn't talk to her. Speed is just constantly trying to annoy her and pull pranks. Um, uh, she wouldn't have much with. I think like she'd have like a cool time with Kid Kaiju because like he summons monsters and she's kind of a monster in a sense. So I think they get along. Um, and then Wiccan. I think would have like this, and she's older than Wiccan. I think it'd be kind of like that babysitter crush type thing with Wiccan, or like uh, Wiccan's like 16 or something like that, and she's well into her 20s, and like wow, she's kind of hot.
is I
I,
don't know enough about Young Avengers. Is Wiccan gay or Speed gay? Or are they both gay? I can't keep track of
I think Wiccan's bisexual.
bisexual. Okay,
Yeah.
all right. So that is your team. We got Spider-Man, Hawkeye, Speed, Wiccan, Spider-Man again, Kid Kaiju, and Wolverine, Laura Kinney. Pretty cool team. And as you said, this is a team where the Avengers are away on a cosmic mission, and so they're left to keep everything safe.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, it sounds like a pretty fun comic. I'd probably check it out.
I have an idea of who would write it too. I think Tom Taylor would be a fun writer for this.
Yeah, he writes Deceased, right?
Yes, he writes Deceased. He also wrote he wrote the Injustice comic books.
Okay.
And he wrote Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man.
Got it. Okay, cool. So, last week when we did our top 10s, we had a lot of crossover.
Yeah.
This week there's no crossover.
Woo, we did it.
We did it, yeah. So to start off with, I also thought about including a Spider-Man character or a Spider-Man analog. I thought about Doppelganger. I really love Doppelganger. But and then I thought about Superior Spider-Man. If you don't know who Superior Spider-Man is, that is a Spider-Man with the mind of Dr. Octopus. But I ended up going with one of my favorite characters of all time. Miguel OHara is where our story will start.
Okay.
And as I introduce the characters, I'll kind of tell you the story. Comic book starts out, Miguel, he usually shows up in our present day, and then he goes back. When he goes back this time, he discovers the Avengers have conquered the whole universe. He doesn't know what happened. So he is mad because everybody is enslaved or dead, and all he knows is Captain America is leading the Avengers, and they're conquering the universe in year 2099. It makes no sense. He doesn't know what has happened. So that's where our story starts.
Okay.
So
Miguel's dope. I'm excited for him to get more exposure with Across the Spider-Verse.
Yeah, Miguel is a great character. He's been around since probably early 90s.
Yeah, he's a 90s character. If he came out any earlier than the 90s, I'd be surprised.
Yeah. I used to love the 2099 universe. It's cool because he's kind of like the opposite of Peter Parker,
Yeah.
So very different character. His powers are slightly different. Like he's got poisonous fangs. He's got little claws on his fingers to stick to the walls and stuff. And he can kind of fly a little bit. It's more gliding.
Yeah.
But just a really fun character.
Oh yeah, he's kind of like I know the comparison's easy, kind of like Terry McGinnis, Batman Beyond, but in that sense that Terry is kind of the opposite of Bruce, and then Peter and Miguel are kind of the inverse as well, but in reverse, where Miguel is the more serious one.
Right. So he would be the first member of my team.
Is he the leader or just the instigator?
He's the instigator. He's what starts all this.
Okay.
So he goes back to present day, and he's going to confront Captain America. So they're going to have a big fight, as they do in these superhero stories.
Mm-hmm.
Captain America is fine, like, convince them, look, there's no way, unless I was being brain controlled or, brainwashed or whatever, mind controlled, for me to conquer all this. But I'm going to help. I don't know what's going on, but I'm going to help you figure this out. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So now you have Spider-Man 2099 and Captain America. And Miguel says, look, it's not just Earth. They've conquered the universe. So we got to go figure out what's going on. So we need to do some investigating. So Cap's like, well, let me invite some of my cosmic friends. And we will go and investigate the year 2099 and figure out what is going on and figure out how to stop it.
Yeah, I think this is cool because our teams are going to be very indicative of our team lists. Where last time your teams were very much more cosmic, and my teams were more grounded and street level. And so my team was very street level. And I assume your team's going to get pretty cosmic here.
Partially. And part of what I was trying to do, and you'll see this, is to me, Avengers is, you got your Iron Man, your Spider-Man, your Thor, your Hulk. And then you might have a Spider-Man. You might have a classic Avenger. So you'll see as we get through this list.
Yeah, so I Captain America is a good choice too, because how do you think he'd be written? Is he like the like Truth, Justice, and the American Way, or is he more like Chris Evans as Captain America?
Hard to say. Maybe a mix of both. I think Captain America, he wants to stand for something. So when he sees that somebody's using his symbol for something, wrong, he's going to put a stop to it because, if this be done in his name, no, we're not having this. So Captain America goes and he recruits some people, 2 people. And as I click the wrong button because I'm awesome, he's going to recruit one of my favorite underused characters, and that would be Beta Ray Bill.
I had a feeling.
So Beta Ray Bill is your Thor type character that's going to join the team. He is, he's in space all the time, so he'd be perfect for going to other universes. He's ridiculously strong. And if you're fighting an army of evil Avengers, he is what you are going to really want on your side.
Mm-hmm.
So Beta Ray Bill's the first cosmic guy they grab. And then the second one that we are going to throw in here is one of our favorite characters. And you could probably guess who it is.
Yeah, I knew this character would be on here too.
And that would be Nova. Rich Rider Nova, when he has like all the powers of the Nova Force, he's like ridiculously powerful. And you know, he's really what you want if you're, especially if you're going all across the universe, Stargates, whatever.
Oh yeah.
So here's your 4 members so far. You got Miguel, you got Captain America, Beta Ray Bill, and Nova. And so what they come to find out is that, you know, it's not Captain America. It's Red Skull controlling Captain America or something. He's posing as Captain America, whatever. The problem is right now in continuity, or when the storyline's taking place, Red Skull is dead. So they're like, how is he back to life? We're kind of back to square one. This doesn't make sense. But they notice 2 of his henchmen, and they're noticing that a lot of these Avengers are not the normal characters, like characters from alternate realities. So they decide that they're going to go grab these 2 henchmen that they saw in the past, and maybe that's where they'll start with their clues. But these 2 henchmen are in prison, so they got to get them out of jail. So we'll just say that SHIELD has them in custody. Mm-hmm. They usually do, you know. So they're going to have to go through the courts to get this done. So that's going to bring in She-Hulk. She-Hulk's a lawyer. She makes a deal with SHIELD that these people will be brought into her custody. She'll take full responsibility. So that brings She-Hulk onto the team.
Okay.
She-Hulk, for those who don't know, is a lawyer. She's an awesome character. She's kind of like the opposite of the Hulk, whereas in the Hulk is all brainless and rage and chaos. She usually has all her facilities. She's very smart. When she becomes the Hulk, though, it kind of amplifies her wants and desires, and she gets a little bit out of control sometimes. But for the most part, she's really cool. Again, another powerhouse on the team. So now we're up to 5 members.
Yeah,
so
she looks good.
Yeah, so there's your Hulk analog. So next, we're going to get our Iron Man analog. So let's remove her from the screen. So this is a character I don't think you know about.
Okay.
This is a character that was created by Kirkman when he was briefly at Marvel. And that is the Iron Maniac.
No, I can't say I've ever heard of this character.
So basically, for a little bit, Kirkman was writing Marvel Team Up, and he introduced a story where Iron Man showed up to save the day, and they found out, oh no, this is an evil Tony Stark from an alternate dimension. And so he's called the Iron Maniac. So he's the first one that they recruit to the team. And at first, these characters will be kind of prisoners, and then they'll slowly, like, hey, if you want us to figure out what's going on, you need to let us go on missions. We need to infiltrate the bad guys. You need to trust us. So Iron Maniac is one of the first ones. So now you have your Captain America, you have your Thor, your Iron Man. We have a Hulk. We have a Spider-Man. Okay. So then our final member, and then Nova's kind of your cosmic wild card character. So then our final member, one of my absolute favorite X-Men villains, who does not get enough love, is Dark Beast.
Okay.
Dark Beast is from the Age of Apocalypse. This is a Hank McCoy that has no morals whatsoever. he will. He one of his earlier storylines when he came to our universe, he like killed everybody that Hank McCoy loved, and then like put Hank McCoy behind like a brick wall and just trapped him there with no food and water, and just left him there to die, and took his place. he is awful. He's basically created the Morlocks, or did experiments on them. He's terrible. So I think it's fun to have a character like him interacting with Captain America, especially when they're used to having Beast on the team, and now there's this horrible version of him that you have to work with, and this horrible version of Tony you have to work with, and Captain America is now questioning: have I just put us on the road of the Avengers conquering the universe by putting these two people on my team?
Yeah.
Or
no,
is this going to prevent that? Are we going to be able to figure this out, or did we just start this? So that is my scenario. From there, I don't know where the story goes. That's just kind of my premise. You could have them jumping to alternate realities, investigating other, weird Avengers they saw in the future, trying to stop them, trying to figure out how the Red Skull is going to come back to life, etc. And then lots of time jumping and world jumping and all kinds of crazy stuff. So that's my Avengers team. I think that would be a really fun comic book. Bunch of characters I really like. Characters I think that would have a really interesting dynamic, especially like Captain America having to deal with these villains all the time. Oh, yeah. And, is there any redemption possible for the Dark Beast? I don't think there is. But, it would be interesting to explore. It reminds me of when they tried to redeem Sabretooth in the 90s, and it just did not work. So that was my team. My team, just to recap: Spider-Man 2099, Captain America, Beta Ray Bill, Nova, She-Hulk, Dark Beast, Iron Maniac. So let us know down in the comments, what would you like for your Avengers lineup to be? If you can pick 7 characters, who would you like to be on the team? It could be classic characters, brand new characters. But I'm just really curious. Because I think Avengers could be a fun title. I've just never been super interested by it. So
yeah. Do you have any idea who you'd want to write this, or would you be the writer?
Probably Rick Remender.
Okay.
He did his Uncanny X-Force is amazing, and he kind of explored some similar things there, where they went to the AOA Age of Apocalypse universe. They went to the future a few times and found worlds where like the X-Men, X-Force were like ruling the world and stuff, and what that looked like. And I think he would be fun. I don't know if he would ever come back to Marvel. But I keep hoping for that day that Disney kind of knows his Marvel comics and kind of just like fires 90% of the staff and brings in an editorial staff that would be able to bring back all these great writers that they've ran off.
Right.
Same thing at DC. I want the same thing to happen at both. Bring back, your Brewbakers, your Rick Remenders, can you get Alan Moore to come back? Just whatever.
No. There's wishful thinking, and then there's the impossible.
Well, I mean, they got him to cooperate for a little bit back in the early 2000s, and then they made him mad again. He wandered off. Yeah. So it's not impossible, but I think you should chase the talent. Bring some of the Image guys back, whatever you got to do, and put out the best product. And even if you're only putting out 20 products a month, if it's the best product, heck, maybe it's worth a $10 cover price, not what you're putting out right now. So
yeah.
All right. So let me get our friend McCoy off the screen. All right. So we're going to move on to our final segment. And I'm really curious about this one. He made me do it. I made Caleb read Astonishing Spider-Man and Wolverine, which is a comic book that most people don't even know about.
Yeah, I hadn't
Uh,
heard of it.
it's by Jason Aaron, and I can't remember which Kubert brother. One of the Kubert brothers involves Spider-Man and Wolverine being lost in time together and just dealing with they don't know what's going on and just how much they hate each other.
Yeah.
So Caleb, and we're gonna go full spoilers here. If you have not read this story, we're about to spoil the crap out of it.
Yeah.
And I just reread this week also just to refresh my memories. So what did you think of it?
So I'll be honest. I was kind of along the ride with Spider-Man Wolverine that I also had no idea what was going on. This was such an interesting read, like, because you don't. It's definitely time travel because like you don't fully understand what's going on until the very end.
Until about it's like I think it's what 6 or 7 issues, and like
It's
it's around
issues.
It's around end of chapter 4, chapter 5. We start going, oh,
Yeah, because like they would switch timelines or time periods, but like there wouldn't be like we wouldn't make a big thing about it. They just wake up and they're in another timeline.
Yeah, and then like a lot of time would pass, and they've adapted to this new timeline, and, and then what?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. No, this was a very interesting one. I will be honest. I think for the first like maybe 1 or 2 issues, I wasn't really feeling it.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, I don't know about this. This might be one of those things that's like, this is his wheelhouse. This ain't really my bag. I think it was about the time that Doom the Living Planet showed up.
Right. The Phoenix Gun.
Yeah. The Phoenix Gun. And I'm like, okay. We have officially gone overboard in the best way possible.
Right.
But yeah, I really like that. I think it was about issue 3 or 4. I called Mojo.
Okay.
Yeah. I thought about it and I'm like, I don't remember what it was. It might have been whenever they decided to put them like in the in like a battle ring or something like that, and I'm like, this seems like something Mojo would do. This has got to be like a TV show he's working on. But what was even funnier about the Mojo thing is like, not only is he thinking about like, and I'm not super familiar with Mojo, but like he would pause everything, and then they would like talk about, well, we got to give Spider-Man this love interest right here. Like I think they'd get along really well, and and it's just some random like Sarah Bailey, I think was her name,
Right.
Like just some
bank teller,
right? And it's like which is interesting because it is this is post One More Day, right?
Should be, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so I think at this point every writer was kind of like, well, we got to give him a new love interest, I guess. And Jason Aaron comes in and is like, here we go. This is your new love interest. Not really. It kind of reminded me of I like to read between the lines and stuff like this, and I'm like, is Mojo a little bit Joe Quesada here? Like maybe just a little bit.
Mojo is one of those characters that it's hard to get him right, but when you get him right, it's really fun.
Oh,
and just if you pay attention to the scenes where he's like, you did what? Kill this old man's family. And so you see in the background, they're rushing off to kill it. He's like, belay that order. And then you see them throwing away the bloody knives where they've just killed the family. Yeah. And it's like, oh, sorry to hear about your family. And it's like, he's so impulsive and demanding of you know, do what I say right now. And, oh, that wasn't right. Well, that's your fault. That's not my fault, you know. And, you know, and I think a lot of times Mojo stories can be very boring. Like, it's just like, okay, the X-Men are a TV show. They fixed it, you know. And it's, I think this one's a lot of fun. What'd you think of what were their names? Czar and Big Murder? Was that their names?
I think that was big murder. At first, I didn't know what to think of them because I didn't know what was going on. It wasn't until the very end that I'm like, okay, that's actually genius. Because what they are is they have these crystals, and at first you don't know what the crystals do, and he's got them attached to his teeth and his baseball bat, and then eventually you find out that that's how they're traveling through time.
Yeah, if they hit you with the diamonds, you are going to be sent somewhere in time.
Yeah. And then at the very end, it turns out that he's just a drug dealer.
Yeah.
who gets these diamonds and he's like, I'm gonna just put these on my teeth.
Right.
I thought that I didn't know what to think of it at first, but at the end, I'm like, okay, these guys are a lot of fun. Yeah,
and this is a story that makes a lot more sense the second time you read it, and the third time, the fourth time, you notice more things. It makes more sense what's happening because there's so much confusion when the story first starts. You're just like, okay, Spider-Man's hanging out with cavemen, or no, actually he's hanging out with bugs, and Wolverine's hanging out with the cavemen. He's teaching them how to make beer, and that beer, the small people ale or whatever it's called.
Yeah.
It shows up all the time in Wolverine, the X-Men. They're always drinking it and stuff. So that's fun. So they start out in the caveman time, then they go to a future where the Earth or the humans are dead and the small people rule again. The devil dinosaurs running around and dooms a giant planet. They are trying to find a weapon to send them back home, or at least Spider-Man is. And he finds the Phoenix gun, and whoever uses it is gonna, when they use it, they're gonna get vaporized.
Yeah.
So Wolverine uses it, and there's this cool sequence, at least I think it's cool, where you see him back how he was during Wolverine Origin, where he's a little sickly kid.
Yeah.
And he sees his mom, and she's finally like, "Come home, it's time for you to go to heaven." And then Spider-Man uses the Cosmic Cube to bring him back, and Wolverine is pissed.
He finally found release in death.
It's a really cool sequence. I love it. And Wolverine. So from that point, I think they end up. Wolverine ends up as a wrestler fighting Peter Parker.
Yes.
Back before the burglar killed his uncle.
And that was probably my favorite part about the whole.
It's so good.
Yeah,
it is so good because Wolverine still has traces of the Phoenix power in him, and Wolverine knows that the bank has the diamonds in it. There's something about these diamonds, so he's gonna go in there and get the diamonds. So he tells Spider-Man, "Hey, I'm gonna go rob this bank. Don't stop me." Peter's like, "Why am I gonna stop you? I don't care." And he's like, "What?"
Yeah. And then he realizes what's about to happen.
Yeah, he sees the visions of the future about Uncle Ben and the burglar and all this. And you just see this look of pain on Wolverine's face where he finally gets Spider-Man, and he's like, "Oh yeah, sorry about your uncle," or take care of your uncle or something. And Peter's like, "My uncle? What are you talking about?" And it's
yeah,
that panel is one of my favorite comic panels of all time. Just that look on Wolverine's face where he finally understands Spider-Man. It's amazing.
I'm glad you said that. I was wondering because you said we've talked about doing top 10 comic book panels, and you said one of them was in this book, and I was wondering which one it was, but that one makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I mean, it's just that look on Wolverine's face, and it's kind of like the light bulb goes off. He's like, "Oh yeah, take care of your uncle, kid," and it's just like. It's so good. So at the same time, Spider-Man ends up in the past being chased by a young Wolverine, and he's covered in meat for some reason.
Right.
And Wolverine's brother, Dog, is chasing him. And from this comic book, Dog ends up in Wolverine the X-Men because at the end, he finds the crystals. So he goes to the future, and now he's running around in modern day. So that's where that happens. But as we said, Mojo is behind it. You find out that this is just a Mojo rating stunt and all this. during the fight, they have their final face off with Czar and Big Murder, and then all these alternate versions of Czar start showing up.
Yeah, it's so good.
They kill their older self, and they both think it's cool. And it's just like, what are you doing?
And he goes and cuts off his hand.
Yeah,
like he's like, hey, I'll be right back. Snicked.
He's like, all right, I got the bat. And he's cut off his hand and still got the bat. Yeah. And then they find the diamonds, and Spider-Man's like, well, I'm gonna bedazzle my costume. And he just got gems all over him. It's a really fun story. Yeah. It's if you like time travel, it's just a really fun comic book.
And then you can't do a story like this without like going, like, it's such a 90s thing for them to do, and they did it. Dark Phoenix Wolverine.
Right. And I think this is where they were setting up. I don't know if you remember when Wolverine died and then he came back, he was going to have the burning claws. I think this is what caused that. I think it was going to come back to this story where he still had Phoenix energy on him, and then people all hated the burning claws, so they dropped it.
Yeah.
But I feel like this is where that comes from. So at the end, they end up in the Old West. They've been there for years and years and years. And Peter and Sarah Bailey are in love. He's going to ask her to marry him, and Wolverine and Peter become blood brothers.
Oh, that's great too.
It is, and
they have the last diamond, and it doesn't work, and so he makes an engagement ring out of it. He's going to ask Sarah to marry him.
Yeah. And then it starts glowing. Were you expecting the Time Variance Authority to show up?
You know, the TVA are something that is such a recent idea to me. I hadn't heard of them until they were announced in Loki. So I didn't expect it, but I was like, something has to happen,
right?
For them to, because first of all, Spider-Man is way too happy right now.
Yes, Spider-Man's not. That is a rule that if your hero is happy, something very bad is about to happen. if you're a good storyteller, at least, unless it's the very end of your story. If your hero's happy, something very bad is about to happen. So throughout the comic book, the orb has been showing up.
Orb.
Jason Aaron loves this character. He uses him a lot.
Yeah.
He used him in Ghost Rider. He used him in I cannot think of the name of the story where the Watchers died and his eyes were ripped out.
Was that Original Sin?
Original Sin, yes. Yeah. Original Sin, yes. So he's a big part of that story. So Jason Aaron just loves this character. Seeing him grow a beard was funny. It makes no sense whatsoever. So the whole time the orbs are trying to warn them that the Minutemen are coming. And so the TVA shows up at the end and sends them all back. And so for whatever reason, Peter and Logan remember everything that happened.
Mm-hmm.
Sarah Bailey doesn't.
Yeah.
And so Peter's like, hey, Sarah, you want to go on a date? Or you want to? She's like, who are you? I got to work. What are you talking about? Mm-hmm. And it ends on this downer where you just see Peter slumped down by a tree and Wolverine sitting in a bar. And it's just like, and in the tree is where they carved their initials in the Old West, him and Sarah Bailey, they were in love.
Mm-hmm.
And
it's still there.
It's still there. They just, for whatever reason, the Time Variance Authority erased her mind. And I guess so Spider-Man Wolverine are heroes. I guess they didn't. I don't know. The part's a little unclear. But it is such a heartbreaking ending. And
yeah,
I kind of like a downer ending. So I mean it's a great one.
What else do you expect when you've got, because I can go ahead, I can say this with absolute certainty that Logan and Peter are the two most miserable characters in the Marvel Universe.
Oh, definitely. I mean, maybe the Punisher. His family was murdered, but
right.
Yeah.
But he's like, Punisher's almost comically miserable, you know?
Right. And the thing about Punisher is he gets chances to be happy. He chooses not to take them. He's like, I know, I'm going to stay on this mission.
No, it's just Spider-Man and Wolverine like they want happiness, but like the world just kind of craps on them like all the time.
Yeah. So Caleb, what did you think of this book
I
overall?
overall, I really liked it. I'm a big fan of Jason Aaron as a writer. And so I had a feeling that I'd like this book. Oddly enough, I thought I was going to go into this with like, okay, so, I kind of like Wolverine. He's all right. But, Spider-Man is why I'm here. I end up liking the Wolverine stuff like way more.
Yeah, and Jason Aaron wrote Wolverine for quite a while before he moved over to Wolverine the X-Men. So if you like this, you should definitely check out some of that.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun. Yeah, this is one of my favorite gems that people just don't know about.
I had never heard of it.
I think when it came out, it got a lot of buzz, and then people just immediately forgot about it because Marvel puts out so many comic books, and it's definitely one of my favorites.
Mm-hmm.
There is a similar, if you like this, you may like, there's a similar Ninja Turtle comic book called it's called Bebop and Rocksteady Destroy Everything. And basically they get the time scepter and they go on a rampage through time and they literally destroy everything.
Is that their play on Deadpool Kills the Marvel Universe?
It's different. It's more chaotic where there's just Bebops and Rocksteadies everywhere because they're just time jumping everywhere. They're crashing into each other. Bebops and Rocksteadies are dying everywhere. They bump into April. She gets mutated, and they're just destroying timelines left and right.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just insanity. And it's definitely more confusing than this one. There's a lot of time travel and time loops and everything. But if you like say you like Rick and Morty or something, that's a fun comic book to look at. Just the wacky science of just destruction and time travel and all that. So, very good. So this was my pick last week. So Caleb, what's your pick for this week?
So a couple things had influenced my pick. With it being the Arcade Expo this week, I thought about going with something video game related.
Okay.
And because they just announced who will be directing Deadpool 3, that'll be Sean Levy, I thought we would go ahead and watch a movie that he directed that Ryan Reynolds starred in, which is Free Guy.
Right. So I have not had a chance to see Free Guy. It's been on my list. So I think this will be a fun one. I've heard great things.
Yeah. And this is an interesting one because I only saw this movie like 2 weeks ago.
Okay, cool.
So it'll be a newer thing for both of us, but I have already seen it.
Awesome. So far on our He Made Me Do It, we haven't really had one that we're like, oh my gosh, why'd you make me watch that? So
I got stuff in my back pocket.
I do too. We'll get there. But I think this will be an enjoyable one. Looking forward to it.
I honestly, the first couple issues, I'm like, is this it? Is this the first one? but then Doom, the Living Planet showed up, and I'm like, oh, here we go.
And apparently Jason Aaron had even crazier plans. So they made him cut out of the book.
I believe it.
And that's the thing about his Wolverine the X-Men run. There's a lot of weird stuff in there, like Doom the Living Planet. So I think that was a turnoff to a lot of people. But for me, I think that's part of comic books. Like you look at all those old DC comic books where it's like, all those wacky Superman stories where Superman's a mermaid or Superman, is a horse or whatever. It was just, or Punisher's now Frankencastle. I think that's part of comic books. You have to have those bizarre, silly moments.
I always think about this is my dad has called this his favorite single issue of any comic book ever. It's from Web of Spider-Man. He has the black suit and he's just swinging around. He sees these kids playing football. And so he goes down.
It's a great comic book.
Yeah. And so the high schoolers, like the older kids, are beating the younger kids. And so Spider-Man's like, I'll play with the younger kids. And like, well, it's not fair. He's like, all right, I'll play with one hand. And it's just a game of football.
Isn't the Watcher involved or something? Like
Yes,
he's
yes,
watching the story, and
yes,
there's some bigger bet on the line, but for the most
yeah,
part, it's just Spider-Man play football with
yeah,
these kids. Yeah,
yeah. There is a wager that they don't know about,
yeah,
but yes, yes, the Watcher is involved, and so whenever someone talks about how ridiculous comics get and how they should be more serious, I always think of that one, and I'm like, Spider-Man played football with one hand with a bunch of middle schoolers.
right,
And that was the black suit Spider-Man.
right, yeah, yeah. Comic books should definitely be fun, and if I know we went through this grim and gritty period in the '90s and 2000s, but if you're not having fun, I don't think you're doing it right. I mean, you could do the grim and gritty every now and then, but at its heart, these stories should be fun.
Mhm.
So I'm looking forward to Free Guy. So next week, we've talked about how Caleb and I have very different tastes,
Yes.
and one of the things that we majorly disagree on is the Star Wars sequels. And I
Yes.
know that I don't think either of us are really a big fan of Rise of Skywalker, but I think Last Jedi is one that we have major disagreements on.
Yes. Yes.
And I don't think you think it's a perfect movie,
No, no, no. I recognize
and
its flaws.
I don't think it's a terrible movie. I think there's major problems with the movie though. Um, so we're gonna do next week. We're gonna do the case for the Last Jedi, and maybe we'll talk about the other sequels as well.
Hmm.
Um, I'm going to argue why I think it is one of the worst Star Wars movies. It actually kind of destroys Star Wars.
Okay.
And what is your side of the argument going to be?
My side of the argument is that because I really like The Last Jedi, but I can't convince someone that it's a great movie like I think it is because that's absolutely subjective. I feel like I can convince anybody that it is at least the best of that trilogy.
And I have to think about Force Awakens because I'm not a huge. I think Force Awakens is serviceable. It's fine,
Mhm.
but
No,
it's not great.
I think The Last Jedi is way better than Force Awakens.
Okay, so tune in next week. I know this is kind of a subject that's been beat to death, but I think this will be a little bit of a different take on Last Jedi. Because most time it's just people pooping on Last Jedi. It's interesting to have someone trying to defend it.
Yeah.
So it'll be a fun debate. And again, we encourage people to have different opinions. If someone doesn't agree with you, that's fine. We're not going to hate you or ban you because you like this movie or don't like this movie, or if Rise of Skywalker is your favorite of the three. That's fine. You know, I think everybody should have their own things they like and dislike, and just because someone doesn't like something, you know, people take things too serious. You know,
I think there's also like almost like a personal attack
right?
that people feel whenever someone let's say I think we all have like reviewers and um people that we tend to agree with. And so whenever we find out that they like something that we don't like, it's almost like a personal attack of I usually agree with this person, but now they like something I don't like, and that means that I should like this, but I don't, and that makes me not like it even more, or something like that. Like one of my favorite podcasts that I listen to, they really liked The Eternals and they really liked Dune, and I wasn't a fan of either movie.
Yeah.
um, but um, you just got to accept that, like, even though you have similar opinions to someone, there's no way you're gonna like everything the same.
And you shouldn't. If you do, there's something more wrong going on. If you
R-
like every single thing that person likes.
right.
Yeah, and I think this kind of started back more in the '90s. I noticed it, and then it's just gotten worse and worse. Is that you know, even on we try to avoid politics, but like politically, you're either this side or that side. There's no in the middle, And I think that's carried over into entertainment now. You're either this side or that side, and you're not allowed to be in the middle. And I think sometimes it's okay to be in the middle. Sometimes it's okay to say this movie, there's parts I liked, there's parts I didn't like. So historically, I'm not a fan of Last Jedi, but you're going to find next week there's parts of it that I really like.
Oh yeah.
so should be a fun debate next week. So tune into that. That'll be next Sunday at 6:00 Eastern, right here on Pop Culture Shark on YouTube. And with that, I think we're going to wrap it up. I've been Final Monkey.
And I've been Caleb.
And we will talk to you next week. Bye.
See ya.